Hey guys, I am back with another video, and in this video I am going to show you how you can integrate Tailwind CSS into your Blazor project. So I have created this Blazor WebAssembly project using .NET 7. This is called Blazor Tailwind. We'll integrate Tailwind CSS in this project. So if you might have already know what Tailwind is. Tailwind is a CSS framework. They call it utility first CSS framework. So what it means is they have utility classes for almost everything which we commonly use in day-to-day CSS. They have all the classes for this. So we can simply integrate Tailwind and then we can add all those classes in our HTML directly. So we can design our complete app without ever going to the CSS file. So if you see this thing, they have this W40 24 H24. So this is for width, height, MD W48. So on medium screens width should be 48, PT6 padding top, text center, text LG. This is font medium, this is font weight, this is text color. So they have almost P means padding, margin, all of those cases. Almost all the cases are already covered with these utility classes. So we can use these and we can design our pages. So that is what Tailwind CSS. Now this is very popular in front-end JavaScript frameworks world. So React JS, Vue, Svelte, Angular, in all those this is very popular. So if we go to doc, we have framework guides. So here we can see this Tailwind CSS. This is supported in all these frameworks. So Next, Svelte, Remix, Symfony, Ember, Meteor, Wait, and there are ton of JavaScript frameworks. So Tailwind CSS is supported in all these, but there is no direct support with Blazor. So we'll do kind of a workaround. So the point here is because as I already mentioned, Tailwind has almost all the utility classes which we use in day-to-day life, but we might use only 20% of the classes in our app. So there is no point of having one CSS file which has all those classes which we are not using, right? Because it will simply reduce the page load, right? Network bandwidth, it will use so much bandwidth, so much size, and there is no point of having that. So that's why how Tailwind works, it uses a JavaScript, we can say transformer. So how it works, it simply scans all the files, it checks what all CSS classes from Tailwind we are using, and from those classes it generates a new CSS file with all those classes which we are using, and it will ignore all other classes. So our CSS file that will be very limited with only the classes we are using in our project. So that is what it is doing. And now this is because this goes hand in hand with JavaScript frameworks. So we use Node to use it. We can directly use CDN as well, but I'll show you the way why we should use which one. We'll use both actually. So stick around till the end of the video. We'll start with something, we'll do some changes, we'll do some config changes, we'll run something, then we'll modify this. So I'll show you how we can do some things, then what is the issue with those things, then what is the solution for those things. So I'll explain everything. So please be stick with this, and do let me know in the comment if you were already aware of Tailwind CSS, what Tailwind is, or this Tailwind is new to you. Do let me know in the comments below. Fine. So first thing, we need to install Tailwind CSS. So it uses npm to install. So npm node package manager. So for this we need to have node.js installed in our system. So if you already have it installed, that is fine. I have it already installed because I work on front-end frameworks as well. So if you do not have it, just go to nodejs.org and install the latest version, and then we'll be good to go. So first thing, we need to install this npm install d Tailwind CSS. For that, where we need to install it, I have created this project Blazor Tailwind. So we need to go to the root of this. So what we'll do, let's go to the open containing folder. This is the root where we have www root folder and our program.cs. We'll use our command prompt here. So cmd side by side where program.cs is, right? So we'll add this npm install -d tailwind css. So what it is, npm install, it is saying that install tailwind css, and -d stands for dev dependency. So what dev dependency means, this tailwind css, this package is only needed for development. So this is required only for development, not for production. So what it means, it will be there in the project when we are building our app, and when we'll publish it, it will not include this. This is what -d means. Fine. So if we run it, and now if we check, we have this package.json file. This got added, and we can see this in our solution explorer as well, package.json. So it has now only one node, one item, dev dependencies, tailwind css, and 3.3.3. This is the latest version right now when I'm recording this. Okay, after this, if we go to the documentation again, we can check they are saying npx tailwind css init. So what this is doing, this is going to create a tailwind.config.js file for us. So let's run it. npx is a shorthand way to create, let's say, it goes hand in hand with npm. So it created this tailwind.config.js file. So if you remember, I told you that it automatically scans the files to find out what all Tailwind CSS classes our app is using. That configuration will go here. We can have themes also, so I'm not going to deep into this, but this content, we are going to work with this content. We'll set the content. This content means where this Tailwind should scan the files for the CSS classes. Okay, after this, we created this, and then we have this template paths, this content. So we need to add the content path here where our class is going to be. So for that, we know first we have the main index.html file which is in www root folder directly. So in content, what I'll do, I'll simply add double quote dot slash, then www root. We need to navigate to the index.html page. So now we are on index.html. So we are saying that scan this file to check if this file is using any Tailwind CSS class. Apart from this, we can have our classes in our pages folder because there are all our components, or we can have shared folder, right? We have layout and some partial shared components basically. So for that, we'll do the same thing. We'll say dot slash pages. Then in pages, search for everything. So this double slash means there could be any nested folders. Then go, then search for everything and use the file extension Razor, and we can include CSHTML as well. If you are not using CSHTML files, then you can omit this directly. Okay, I have added this because it might be a Blazor Server project. Maybe we can have some CSHTML page as well. Fine, and we'll copy the same thing for our shared folder, shared. And if you have any other folder, maybe sometimes I also follow the components folder structure, right? So if I have some shared components, I add those in components folder. So we can modify this or add one more entry to this. So what we'll say, like this, comma, add this, and then we'll say components. So like this, we can add all the places where we are going to have our HTML templates so that it can scan all those files for all the Tailwind CSS classes. Fine. After this, if you go to our documentation, next thing is we need to add these Tailwind directives. So these Tailwind directives, copy this Tailwind directives, these just tells where to add all the CSS classes. So for that we can create a new file, or maybe we can add these in a CSS app.css file, which is a default CSS file. So these things, these three lines, these should be at the very top on the file. There should be nothing before these. So this is a must. Fine, save it. After that, if we go to the documentation again, start Tailwind CLI build process, and then we can start using it. So what we are going to do, then we have this section, npx tailwind I source output watch everything. So we will not use this watch for now. We will not use that watch. So now next thing is we have our this thing open, right? So we can say this npx tailwind css I stands for input. So where is our input class? Input means this class where we added these attributes at the rate tailwind base component utilities. So this exists in our dot slash triple w root www slash css slash app.css. This is our input file, and then -o stands for output, where we are going to add the output file. So we'll add the output file in the triple w root folder only. So www root slash css slash, let's say, tailwind.css, and we'll press enter. We'll wait for it. It is generating the file, and we can see rebuilding, and then it created a new file tailwind.css. This time this tailwind.css, these are the base classes. So on HTML, body, HR, the main tag level classes basically. There is no direct class, we cannot see anything. These are some basic classes which we have. Now if we go to our index.html, let's use some of the basic classes, but before that we need to add this file to our HTML, right? So here only what we'll do, we'll add css tailwind.css. So we have this file here. Now let's, on body, let's have an h1, we'll have a class, and let's say we'll have class as text red and 500. This is a class from Tailwind, so we'll say red heading. And now if we first, let's check if this class exists in this tailwind.css file. We'll search for it, and we cannot see it because this does not get generated. Now if we go here in the command line again, and if we run the same npx tailwind css input output, and if we run it, let's wait for it, rebuilding, and it generated it. And now if we check it, we can see this class is here, text red 500. What it did, when we ran it, this npx tailwind css input app.css, it went to this tailwind config.js file, it checked this content setting, it scanned all these sections, www to index.html, pages, all the razor files in pages, shared and components, and then it find out our app is using this class which is coming from Tailwind. So it need to generate a CSS class for this in our output file, which is this tailwind.css. It generated this one only. Now I can show you, if I change it, let's say tailwind red 700, we cannot see this file, right? We only have 500 text red 500, we do not have text red 700. Now let's do one thing, let's go to index.html again and change this 500 to 700. Now we are not using 500, we are just using 700. Let's go to command prompt line again, let's run it again and wait for it to build, rebuilding, and it is fine. Now if you go to Tailwind CSS, we can see text red 700. We have 700 now because we are using it, And if we check for 500, we cannot see that because we are not using that file anymore, right? We are only using 700, so it is showing us 700. Now let's go to in one of the pages. So let's go to the counter. On counter, we have this h1 counter. Let's add a class here. Let's say text yellow and 800. Save it and open it, run it, npx tailwind css. I'm just showing you, we are not going to do it manually, we'll automate this, but right now I'm just showing you how these things are working. So now we are using two classes from Tailwind. One is text yellow 800, which is in our pages counter.razor page component, and one is in our index.html, which is text red 700. Now if we go to tailwind.css, you can see we have two classes, text red 700 and text yellow 800. So this is how Tailwind works. It is going to ship only the classes which we are using in our app. Cool. So this thing we were doing manually, but we don't want this thing to be manual, right? Because there is no point of whenever we are doing something, then we'll come here, we'll make change, we'll run this command, and then we'll run our project. That is not what we want. What we want. So what we'll do, we'll modify our CS pros. So we are going to do something in this CS pros file, and that something is going to be, we will add a target here. Target. So this is basically a MS build configuration. When we build our app, then it triggers this target, and in this target we can set a name for this target. So we'll say, let's say Tailwind transformer. It could be anything. And in this, let's have a message. So message text, so that we can see it when it is running. So let's say like this, and transforming or generating Tailwind. This message is up to you. This is just to indicate that something is happening or it is using something. Generating Tailwind CSS. Let's do this. And in order to display this, we'll set the importance to high so that it shows in the output, build output. After that, we will use exec, and in exec we need to provide a command, and this command is going to be what we were using, this command. Copy, and we can add this here. Okay, now we need to tell when this target should run. So for this we'll say before targets build, means before building this project you should run this thing. So it will run before it, and when it will run this npx tailwind all this, so it should do the trick. I am saving it, and now let's first change the classes. So let's say text red 700, let's have it 900, text red 900, and let's go to counter.razor text yellow 900, or let's say text blue 900. So now we are using these two classes. Save, and let's try to run this. We have this build output here. You see, generating Tailwind CSS, it picked up that line. Rebuilding, this is coming from there, from here. This thing is running, got it. And we can see this red heading here, which is coming from Tailwind. And where is our counter? Counter. This is red heading, this is red color. We have counter, and we have this counter in blue. If we check the element, so we can see on this we have text blue 900, we have text blue 900, which is coming from Tailwind CSS, which is R class file which we generated, and we have text blue 900, text red 900. So this has only these two CSS classes. If we come here, I stopped it. Let's go to tailwind.css file, and we can see we have these two class files now. So we only have those two things, nothing else, right? Now we don't need this. We can simply close this CMD because we have added this in our project config. Cool. So everything looks fine. Everything looks great. The only problem here is when we are working in development mode, then there is no point of having it again and again, and it will be only run when we will run the project or build the project, right? So for example, what I am saying, this is when we are dealing with Blazor supports hot reload. So hot reload will not work. Hot reload will work, but Tailwind classes will not work with hot reload. What I mean is, let me show you. Let me run this. Again, I'm running it. We have this red heading. I don't know why this left section broke, but let's see. Let's go to counter page. So we have this counter, this counter. This is of color blue right now. Let me do this. Let me go to the counter.razor, and what I'll do here on counter, I'll say updated. I'll save it, and my hot reload triggered, and we can see this updated. Now what if I change this text blue 900 to, let's say, something text green 900. I save it, and nothing is happening. You'll see class is applied. So if we go here, we came here, text green 900, this HTML triggered, class is applied, but we cannot see this class because this class did not get generated. Why so? Because we are generating the files with this target which executes when we are building it, right? But this time we are not building our project. That means this is not going to trigger, and this is not going to pick up the new classes which we are adding from Tailwind. So this is not going to work as expected. So for that, what we'll do, this is a kind of additional work, so we don't need this when we are building this. So what we can do, we will do this thing only when we are publishing our app, right? So what we'll do, when we are releasing our app, we are building it in release mode for publish, then only we'll do this. So we can add a condition in here on this target, and that condition is going to be $configuration. This is dynamically going to provide us the configuration from this section, this configuration debug or release. We'll check if this is release, then only do this, right? We can just verify it. If we run it, we are in debug mode. If we check our output, in our output build, you see build started, everything happened, but there is no generating Tailwind CSS thing, right? Now let's stop it and change the mode to release, and now let's try to run it. Now you see generating Tailwind CSS. We can see this because we added a condition that you should run this thing, and npx Tailwind, you should transform this only when we are running our app in the production mode, in the release mode. So that means when we are publishing it, then only you should do this. Now this got fixed for publish mode, for release mode. What about debug when we are developing it? So what we should do for development, if we go here on the Tailwind documentation, we can see this last part, which is play CDN. So on this play CDN, we have this script tag. So we'll copy this script tag and we'll add this in our index.html file. We'll go to our index.html. Where is our index.html? This is our index.html. And here we are going to add this file. Now if we run it, oh sorry, this is in release mode. Let me change it to debug mode. Debug, run. If you are still watching till here, drop a comment that keep going. Right? I'm running it in debug mode. Let's see what is the issue. Troubleshooting, GitHub troubleshooting, failed to launch browser. Is the browser already launched? We have this thing running. Stop. Do I have something running? No, I don't have anything running. Or do I have? Stop everything. Fine. Clean. And run. Okay, it is here, it is coming. We can see red heading. Fine. Now let me go here. No, not here. Let's go to, okay, first we'll go to counter. This is green. Now let's do one thing. On counter.razor, green, yellow, blue, what other color we have? I don't know, maybe purple. Do we have purple color in Tailwind? I saved it. Let's see if it got updated, and it got updated. We can see this text purple 900, text purple 900, and it is coming from this JavaScript file. Basically it added all the data to the page only. So this is coming from this JavaScript file which we just added for HTML. But now we have a situation. We don't want this file in our production. This is only for development, and it also says if we go here and if we check the console, we see this warning here which says cdn tailwind.css should not be used in production. Right? To use Tailwind CSS in production, install it as a post CSS plugin or use the Tailwind CLI, but we are using a third approach, so we should not use this in production. That is what they are saying, and that makes sense, because for production there is no point of having an additional script which dumps all the Tailwind CSS in our page. So that is not the ideal solution. So we have these two things. This tailwind.css which we are generating, we need this only for production, and this tailwind, this script, we need this only for development. So for this, because this is index.html, this page does not comes under our Razor or Blazor, so we cannot have some dynamic the compilation here. We can go to our shared main layout, and here we can have that conditional check that if we are running in debug mode or release mode, that means we are running in development or this is hosted on production environment. So for that we can inject WebAssembly host environment, WebAssembly host environment. Let's name it host environment, and now we can check this host environment dot environment. It gives us the current environment it is running on. Is it development, production, staging, or whatever environment we have. We can check it like this, or we can use the helper methods on this host environment object, which is production, is development. So we have these helper methods as well, so we can use these as well. So what we'll do, if this is development environment, do something else, do something else, and that something is, let's go to our index.html, copy this tailwind css. So if this is development, no, For production, we'll use this CSS which we will generate, and for production we need to have this, no, production. For development, we need to have this cd and tailwind css.com, this script. So now in development we are adding this script, but now the issue is we cannot add scripts directly to our Razor components. We can add style, that is fine, but we cannot add scripts. So for that we need to take a different route, and that route is we will dynamically load this script using JavaScript, IGS runtime JavaScript interop. So for that, first in the www root folder, let's create a new file, new JavaScript file, ASP.NET Web Scripts. Let's call it common.js. You can have your common methods in this common.js, and here we'll add one method, let's say load.js. It will expect an src and let's say an id. Okay, and here what we'll do, we'll create a script element, script document dot create element, the script element. Then on this script we'll set src equals this src which we got, script dot id equals id, and script dot type, which is default but we can have it explicit as well, text javascript. Fine. Now we need to add this script tag to our head, not our head, documents head. So document dot head dot append, and then we can add this script. So it will be added to the head of our page. Save it. Now we need to use this common.js on our index.html page. So let's add this common.js here, and now we can call this method from our main layout Razor page. So for that, what we'll do, we'll add a code block, and here we'll override a method that is onInitialized. So because this is WebAssembly, we can use onInitialized, and if we are using Blazor Server, then we will have to use onAfterRender async. So do let me know in the comment if you know about these two, that what is the purpose of onInitialized async or onInitialized, and what is the purpose of onAfterRender or onAfterRender async. So why we need onAfterRender async in Blazor Server app, and why onInitialized works in Blazor WebAssembly. So do let me know in the comments. Fine. From here we'll use this, but for that we need to inject IJS runtime. Let's call it JS runtime only. And then from here what we'll say, await JS runtime dot invoke void async. We are not expecting any value in return from here. Okay, so we can first use the name of the method we are going to call from JavaScript, and that is window dot load.js. Right, this was window dot load.js. Fine. Then after this we can pass the parameters, so it expects an id and src. So let's have a private id here, private string script id, and we can call it whatever we want. So Tailwind. id is underscore script id, and then the second parameter which is src, which is this thing, and now we should be good. Okay, now we can use this. This is main layout, fine. So now we can remove this line from here, delete this, and now let's negate this check because there is nothing in this if condition. So we can do if not is development, then do this like this. So if it is not development, use the generated Tailwind CSS file. If this is development, okay, we need to add a condition here. Here we'll say if host environment dot is development, then load this JavaScript dynamically. Fine. And why I have added this ID that I'll show you in a minute. I think everything is fine. Now let's run it. This is loading and we cannot see the design. This red heading should have been in red color, right? And if I go to head and here if I check, we can see this script which we added. That means script got injected but it did not work. The reason is if now I am in this browser's console, browser's developer tools, I selected this script and I am deleting this. When I deleted that script, then you can see this automatically gets generated and this style injected in here in the head of this page. You can see this. So somehow when I was playing around with it, so direct script adding is not working. It works if we add it and then remove it. Why so? I have no idea. If you guys have some idea about it, do let me know in the comments what could be the issue, or maybe I'm missing something, I don't know. So we need to add that script, then remove that script. That's why I added this ID, so that we can capture this ID and then we can remove this. So for that we have two approaches. Either we can just modify this load.js to load tailwind.js and we can have both the things inside this only, or we can have a separate method for this. So we will say window dot remove element, something like this, remove element, and then we'll expect an ID. So we'll remove the ID, the element which has this ID. Okay, so here what we'll do, we'll say const element equals document dot get element by ID, and here we'll get ID. Then we'll check if this element exists, then we'll simply say element dot remove. Fine, save it, and now we can, right after this we can call this with this script ID. We can do this, and if we are not willing to do these two calls from here, what we can do instead, we can have one more method here, the function which will say let's say load tailwind cdnjs, something like this, and here we'll get ID and src, or maybe src also we can get from here only. Then there is no point of having ID as well, we can have it here as. Okay, let's do this. We'll say const ID equals this tailwind, and then src, we know this is the src, const tailwind src. Cool. Now we can call both of these methods. So we'll say window dot load.js, load.js, and then we can pass this ID and then this tailwind src. After this we can call this remove element. So we'll say window dot remove element, and then we can pass the same ID. So it should work, but let's add uh, artificial delay. So we'll say set timeout, call this and we'll add simple 0. So if you are familiar with JavaScript, the set timeout 0, it will not execute immediately. It will execute after some time, not some time as in time, but when everything else is completed. So, okay, window.load, and now we can call this method, this function from here. So we'll say this without any parameter. Remove, and then we don't need the second call, and then we don't need this script also. Now there is one more thing, continue editing. Oh, there is no need. Yeah, I was thinking maybe if somehow this thing got run twice, so it will add two times, but no, it will not, because after adding it we are removing the element. So if somehow it executed again, then it will again load the this script and remove it. So we are good with this. So I guess everything looks fine now. Let's try it out. Stop everything and run. And we did not get that. And why so? We have had and we don't have that style. Hmm. Okay. Maybe it happened so soon. Let's add a couple of console statements so that we know that something has happened. Console.log loading script. Then let's have another one here where we'll say console.log removing script. Save everything, go back, refresh. Console loading script removing script. Okay, this worked, but somehow this not worked. So what we'll say we can do, let's try to remove it at a later point of time. Or maybe instead of on initialize, let's try on after render async. On after render async, it expects a parameter which is of type bool first render. So we'll say host environment is development and this is the first render. Save and run. Let's see. And we still cannot see it. Console loading and removing that work, but okay, let's try to add a actual delay, let's say 500 milliseconds. Stop and let's see if it is updated or not. Save, run. Yeah, it worked. So maybe the issue is when we added it and just after we removed it, it was not able to execute. Maybe it was just executing the script and we deleted the script in between. That's why it happened, right? Or one more thing, maybe on this script type we can also have a load function which let's try that out. Script dot onload function, or maybe check what onload is. Onload gives us just event. Onload will say let's return this script from here. Return this script element. We'll have this inside here. So we'll say const script equals this. And then let's do one thing. We'll say script dot onload, and let's remove this in here with 0. And let's say add this console.log script loaded. So stop and run. Let's see, hopefully this should work this time. And if this did not work, yeah, this worked. Yeah, so that's what is having what was happening before. So the script tag, we added this, but the script wasn't downloaded completely, and right after that we removed that element. So now what we are doing, we are creating the script element, we are adding this to the head, and when we add this head, then it starts downloading this script file, and after that we wait until that script got downloaded, and when it is loaded, then we'll remove this item. So remove and remove, and I think everything is fine now. So for development we are good. If we check our output build, let's see, try this time. Go to output build, and we cannot see anything related to this thing generating Tailwind CSS which we added earlier. See, it worked. Okay, remove, and if we run this in release mode, then what it is going to do, it will generate the Tailwind CSS in that file which we set, and then it will simply come here and it will load that script file on our page, and it will simply skip this thing, loading this Tailwind from this CDN, which we should not use in production environment. So yeah, everything is working as expected. We don't need to make any change after this. So it will automatically use this Tailwind generated CSS, and it will generate it when we are building the project for release. Then it will simply generate it, and it will use this file in production, and this file, this JavaScript thing, in local. So yeah, that's all for this video. Please like this video, share this video, subscribe my channel. I'll be back soon with some other cool content. Bye bye.